You ever wonder, what if Andy never made it? What if the whole escape, the rain, the freedom, the letter under that old oak tree, what if none of it ever happened? What if it was all just Red's last desperate dream? A beautiful lie created by Red, because the truth was simply too painful to accept. I mean, think about it. Red was an old man, a lifer, decades locked up. Hope wasn't in his vocabulary. He even said it himself. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane, but then Andy disappears, and suddenly Red starts to believe in hope. Just like that, he starts talking like a man who's already free long before the parole board ever stamps his papers. That doesn't sound like coincidence, does it? The Shawshank Redemption is one of the most loved films ever made. A story of friendship, survival, and above all, hope. But what if that hope was never real? What if Andy's escape was nothing more than a desperate dream? Not Andy's dream, but Red's. A fragile, fading vision created by a man who had lost everything. Because when the mind is broken and the world feels too cruel, sometimes the only way to survive is to rewrite the ending. Maybe, just maybe, Andy never made it out. Maybe he got caught halfway through that tunnel. Maybe the warden found him. Maybe the dream died right there in the dark, buried in Shawshank's concrete walls. And the Andy we see standing on that beach, that's not Andy at all. That's Red's mind, giving himself one last gift, one last piece of hope to hold on to. Because without Andy, without that dream, what else was left for Red? Nothing. And the more you think about it, the more it starts to make sense. You and I, we only know Andy's story through Red. After Andy disappears, we don't see him. We only hear about him through Red's words, through Red's imagination. And isn't that strange? Everything from that moment on feels like a fairy tale, a perfect ending. A man who spent years chiseling through a wall crawled through a river of sewage, vanished into thin air, left a letter under a rock, and Red, a man who never believed in hope, just happens to stumble onto this perfect ending, almost like the story was meant for him, almost like the story was created by him. Red was a man who had spent most of his life behind bars. He saw men grow old, lose their minds, and disappear into silence. By the time he was released, there was nothing left for him out there. No family, no purpose, no future, only memories of a friend who once gave him hope. So maybe Red chose to believe Andy escaped, not because it was true, but because he needed it to be true. He imagined the letter. He imagined the beach. He imagined freedom waiting for him somewhere far from everything he had lost. Because without that dream, what did he have left? In the final scene, we see Red walking toward the ocean. No dialogue, no explanation, just a smile. It feels peaceful. What if that beach doesn't exist at all? What if that moment is just Red's mind letting go? Maybe it's a story he tells himself in his final moments to soften the weight of a life filled with loss, guilt, and time. Because when a man has nothing left, sometimes the only thing keeping him alive is a beautiful lie. So now ask yourself, did Andy really escape, or was it all just a dream? A last flicker of hope in Red's fading mind, a story created not to deceive us, but to protect himself. And the crazy part is, it's not just Red, it's all of us. You, me, everyone. We hold on to stories, we rewrite memories, we imagine better endings, not because they're true, but because they're easier to live with.